Hello and welcome back to Raise the Trident. My name is Jake, and today we have another interview from the previous charity stream that occurred on Saturday, December 20th, where we raised money for the Hunger Intervention Program. We interviewed Tyler Thompson, who is the Director of Game Entertainment and Experiential Marketing for the Seattle Mariners. We talked all about what his job is, and if you've ever been to a game at T-Mobile Park, you have seen his work everywhere. So it was an awesome conversation. I can't wait for you to hear it. Let's get right into it. We're going to get into it. So Tyler Thompson is here on the stream. We appreciate him taking the time to come on and talk with us. Tyler, if you don't know, he is the Director of Game Entertainment and Experiential Marketing for the Seattle Mariners. He does a lot of stuff for the Mariners, especially if you've been to a game at T-Mobile Park. That is where you're going to see a lot of his work and really notice a lot of his work. So we're going to get all into that. But of course, we need to, we're going to go back to step one and learn more about how he got into all this, and then we'll get into that later. So first, Tyler, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you taking the time. Where are you at right now as far as, it's the Christmas season? I know you grew up in Spokane, so are you back there or are you still in Seattle?
Yep.
Nice. Yeah.
First of all, thank you guys for having me. What a cool show and what a really cool stream that you guys have got going on here for a really cool initiative too. So, and hopefully I'm not lagging too much. I think we might be stepping on each other just a little bit, but I am, yes, I'm at my home in Burien right now, Washington. Seattle is my home now, but I am from Spokane. I'll head back over there for a few days after the holidays to see my family for a little bit. But for right now, my wife, dog, and I are gearing up. This is actually a really good break from wrapping Christmas presents. So nice. I appreciate you guys breaking it up for me a little bit.
Of course, yeah, and we know we have the delay now, so we'll be able to account that more. I was not aware of the delay prior to the question, so now we're good. We'll be able to calibrate a little bit better. So just kind of getting into it, Tyler, where does baseball come into your life from the earliest stage? Like, where does that start for you?
Yeah, well, I played baseball as a kid, of course, but really where baseball and I created our marriage was when I was 16 years old. And I got a job for the Single A Spokane Indians, who at the time were the Single A affiliate for the Texas Rangers. It was my first job, and ever since then, I've worked in baseball every single summer. In fact, I have never had a job that wasn't for a sports team. So I started that year selling $1 programs at the games, selling bats, balls, and auto dolls, as we said, like toys from the team store, walking up and down the aisles. And I ended up progressing there and doing other jobs. I was a section leader, which is kind of like an usher, someone that'll help you find your seats, and, customer service. I was the clubhouse manager there for 3 years as well. I did both the home and the road side for the Indians and whatever team came into town, including Dylan Moore was a member of the Spokane Indians while I was there. Eric Swanson was a member of the Indians when I was there. So I got to make relationships with those guys before I got to work with them here in Seattle. And then at the same time, I was going to Eastern Washington University, go Eags, and working in the athletic department, mostly in marketing and the game entertainment side of things. And that's what I really sparked too. So I spent my last, 3 or 4 years at Eastern, stage managing football games, working in the control room at times. Producing games for men's and women's basketball, volleyball, that sort of a thing. And that really sparked my interest in game entertainment. And now that's what I do with the Mariners, and I've been with the Mariners since 2018. So again, this upcoming one will be my 16th consecutive season working for a baseball team in the summer.
Wow. What was your original role with the Mariners? Has it always been the same, or did you start, kind of like the lower man on the totem pole sort of deal and work your way up?
Yeah, when I came over in 2018, I started as a marketing coordinator. And I definitely had some game entertainment duties. I would help write some scripts, and I would be an assistant producer in our control room. But at the time, I oversaw our kids club, and I did a lot of copywriting, promotional copy, and what we call drops. You'll be watching the broadcast, and a graphic will come up, and they'll say, "Hey, make sure you come to Nelson Cruz Boomstick Watch Day" or something like that. Writing all those type of things. So I have progressed more so into the game entertainment focus, and now expanding that again in our experiential marketing department. Which I know you probably are like, what does that mean? So I'll explain. Experiential
Yeah.
marketing, and I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys for getting it right, because most of the time people say Tyler Thompson, he's in the experimental marketing department, or they'll make some word up. It is experiential, and it is kind of the arm of marketing of things that you can actually dig your teeth into. What can you experience? So the game entertainment is a big piece of that, but also our kids club, our mascot programs, getting out in the community and showing up at the Pride Parade or at the Torchlight Parade, and how do the Mariners show up with those things? And so that is kind of what makes up our experiential marketing department. That plus we are working on all of our promo items for next year, and even looking ahead to 27.
Already. Wow. You guys are ahead
discussions.
of the game.
Discussions. We're kind of, we're brainstorming things for this upcoming year. We're saying, all right, well, maybe that's a better fit for 2027.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. So my next question is, and it's going a little bit back to your Spokane Indians days. When you were doing stuff like you're kind of doing now with the game entertainment and all that, was there any specific, because we'll get into your ideas that you've had with the Mariners that have been a big deal for the Mariners experience. But going back to the Spokane Indian days, was there any ideas you had there that you put into effect that were on the game entertainment side that really just you felt like worked well? Like any specific examples that you have?
Yeah, well, with the Indians, I only spent one summer kind of in the promotions, or what the role was called, press box manager. And for the most part, they would, write the script of the promotion that day, deliver it to me, and then I would work with the PA announcer and the DJ in the control room or the press box. So no, there's not really any ideas from my time with the Indians that stuck, but I certainly with Eastern Washington University, I was a little bit more embedded in the marketing department there. And, I came up with some taglines and that sort of thing. They still used #LetItFly for men's basketball. That was something that I got to come up with. And they'll occasionally still use the expression experience to talk about, the experience that you can get at either Roos Field or Reese Court, where they play their football and men's basketball game. And, there's been a lot of turnover over there. There's not as many people that I know, but I've still been able to keep relationships with, the new folks that are coming in at Eastern. And I was really there during the golden age of Eastern football. I was a freshman the same year as Cooper Kupp. So we were taking, psychology 100 together. And then I was working for the athletic department while he and Kendrick Bourne and Samson Ibukam and all these dudes that ended up in the NFL. And, we made it to national semifinal games. And that was such a good experience to me. Like this, not just having like these crowds that we could engage and fire up in big moments, but, I also got some experience in working NCAA playoff games, which is important for me because they're somewhat similar. The way that the NCAA comes in and has a little bit more input on your presentation for those playoff games was similar to both in 22 and now 25. MLB comes in and has, some input on what our presentation is and has some additional sponsored items. So that was a good experience to have this year. But yeah.
Is it weird for you going to school with Cooper Kupp and now he had a successful NFL career and now he's across the street playing for the Seahawks?
It's cool. It's really cool. Him and his wife, Anna, I remember them being at Eastern, and Cooper was always so focused, like the most focused, dedicated guy ever. I mean, I went to Eastern between undergrad and grad school with him at the same time for 5 years. I never saw that guy out at a bar, but I saw him studying. He was an economics major and he was always focused. He was studying football. He was studying work. And like I said, we got some overlap, and it was cool for full circle this year. He got to come and throw out a ceremonial first pitch for the Mariners, which I worked with his agent in the Seahawks to help bring together. And I got to go down there with him on the field. And as he came off, I handed him the Trident to hoist up. And that was a really cool moment as part of the EWU group ticket special that we did back in, I think, July of this year.
Nice.
And then he had the big 2-point conversion on Thursday. I was at the game, and yeah, it was very cool. And it's great to hear the Seattle fans doing the Coop celebration, which started at Eastern, and then the Rams did it, and now the Seahawks have taken it on too. That's a very cool full circle for me.
Yeah, it's cool to see you guys kind of both in, prominent roles with the Seattle sports teams, just, being across the mountains over in Eastern. So that's got to be a lot of fun. How has your relationship with Cooper Kupp changed over the past, however long? Because I'm sure, you guys are in separate places, there's the school.
Well, I mean, truthfully, I mean, we hadn't even stayed in touch in that sense. I mean, he graduates Eastern, gets drafted by the Rams, and when I saw him this summer was the first time I'd seen him in 10 years. So one of these days he'll get his number retired at Eastern, probably after his playing days, because same thing again, like such a focused, dedicated guy. Like he is not going to take a weekend off and travel. He's going to stay there and study film for whoever they've got after the bye week. So when he gets his number retired, I'll make sure that I'm there at Roos Field to see it go up in the rafters.
Awesome. Joe, you got anything?
I think I'm waiting more so for the current events as far as the experience at T-Mobile. And I think sinking our teeth into what's going on, or things that you've kind of adapted and changed over the past couple of seasons. But I think the big one that Jake and we've all kind of been like talking about and teasing is like the hot dogs from heaven and the salmon run. So like,
yes,
kind of like the spawn of those ideas, like where those come from. And I can imagine like you see the president's race for the Nationals, and like there's like things that obviously you're taking inspiration from, but like then transferring it, like how do you make that Seattle Mariners focused, or Seattle focused? And like when the salmon run came about, it was not something that I had ever kind of thought about. It's like, oh, the Mariners are doing a president's race run kind of a thing, and then it has taken, I think, Mariners fandom by storm, like in such a tremendous way.
Yeah, we're super fortunate that the fans have taken to it so well. And we'd had conversations dating back to 2020, truthfully, talking about what we wanted to do as far as a mascot race, and do we want to introduce one with the Mariners, because we've seen inspiration from the president's race and the sausage race or the pierogies or whatever they are. I mean, it's become a staple in baseball, and they're successful, and it's an opportunity as creatives to have more characters to play with and create personalities with. So, we had several different options on the table. We talked about, Seattle rock stars or former Mariners players or city landmarks. And ultimately the one that I sparked to the most was the salmon run, because it's an actual expression, salmon run, and an actual ecological race that we have in the region each year is salmon return to their home waters to, spawn. And so that was kind of like the beginning. Hey, I want to move forward with the salmon run and sharing it with some people and getting some opinions. And then, ultimately it was like, okay, well, we got to put something on paper here a little bit. What are these characters? Who could they be? How do they, come back to Seattle? And we think we did that in a pretty fun and tasteful way based off of their names. Obviously, King Salmon takes on King County, but also King Felix with the celebration and the robe. Sockeye is the 90s, very grunge. How could he not be with a name like Sockeye?
Sure.
Flannel, bullnose piercing, wallet chain, has Sea of Sorrow by Alice in Chains play when he wins. Silver embodies the kind of more modern and technological age of Seattle with all these big tech firms. You think Microsoft, and you think, Google, and all the different, the big tech rise here in Seattle over the last few decades. And then, of course, everybody's favorite is Humpy, who is just your lovable goofball. I think I compare Humpy in my head to Patrick Starr a little bit, of like, you love him, not sure he's ever going to really say or do the right thing, but because of that, he's your best friend. And that one is based more off of the fish itself than anything in Seattle, just being that it is the smaller of the four fish. It is, maybe not the strongest swimmer, as you can tell by its Humpy's floaty inner tubes and water wings. So yeah, that's how it came to be. I made that pitch. I had songs for all of them. I got character art for all of them, and I shared them with a team of people. And ultimately we said, all right, let's pull the trigger. So we moved forward with making the suits, and for opening day 2024, they were here in Seattle.
That's very cool.
I have to know. So I was at game 5 versus the Tigers, right?
Yeah.
The 15 inning game. Whose call was it for Humpy to win his first race? Like, because I looked at my dad going into that, and I'm like, if they talk about doing another salmon run, and I'm like, they have to let Humpy win. That he has to win this one, because like the good juju coming out of that, and in the next inning, of course, then Jorge Polanco hits the walk-off and whatnot. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Well, I fortunately had some experience from the 18 inning game in 2022. And a little bit of what it's like is you're going deep into those games. We've had some extra innings games, since I've been with the Mariners in 2018 as well. But basically since the, automatic runner at second base, nothing really goes past 11 or 12 innings. So we're running, rally clips, which you guys would probably recognize are the videos that we run in the middle of the inning. And we have a whole bunch of them. But, as you start getting into the 11th and 12th and 13th inning, there's not really a script. And we build our shows for a 30, 40-minute pregame show and then 17 inning breaks, that being, middle of the first, end of the first, middle of the second, end of the second. The easiest one is what are we doing at the end of the 8th when we're bringing in Andres Munoz? Like that one's pretty much written for us, that and the 7th inning stretch. But as you start to get deeper into the game, again, like there's no blueprint for something like that. And we had just done the 14th inning stretch. I don't know if you know this, but in baseball, it's every 7 innings. So you do one on the 14th, you do another one on the 21st if you made it there. The next morning, if you make it to the 28th inning, you're doing the same thing. So we had just done, and I guess I should say too, we had just all year long, and for the last several years, our crowds have been so good. We have got loud fans, we've got energetic fans, we've got smart fans that know when to stand, when to get loud, 2 strikes, 2 outs, big moments. They feel it. Like our fan base's baseball IQ has always been good, but has grown significantly the last handful of years. So, but you get into those games and you start to feel their fatigue. The decibel meter's not hitting as high. People are taking pitches off and you start to feel it dip a little bit. So we do the 14th inning stretch. People stand up, they sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." They're feeling good. They're, you feel maybe a little bit more of the crowd energy, which is so much of my job, beyond the Salmon run and the hot dogs from heaven and whatever else, like signature features that we have. My top priority is creating a home field advantage. And I think we do as good a job as anybody in baseball at that. So when the crowd's feeling something, I feel it too. Like I feel my energy dipping. I respond to them. There's nothing like the dopamine of a big crowd making noise in big situations. So that 14th inning stretch was a little eye-opening to me. I was like, all right, that was the best we've heard our crowd in, 9 outs. What could we do here that we did maybe earlier in the game that's familiar that would get people going again? So I said, maybe we could try to roll out another Salmon run. So I called a couple members of my team, Nick Sybouts and Callie Rutherford, who were on our experiential marketing team. I said, hey, do you guys think we could pull together a Salmon run? By this point, it's the bottom of the 14th. Do you think we could pull together a Salmon run for the middle of the 16th inning? And they're like, yeah, we'll go work on it. And they go down there. I get a phone call back and they say, hey, we're ready. Do you want to try to go mid 15?
Wow.
And I said, absolutely. Let's do it right here. I love, our lineup coming up here with, JP, Randy, Cal, Julio, and then ultimately Jorge Polanco. And so the Salmon are standing by, ready to go in the middle of the 15th inning. And this is the exclusive. This is what only this live stream is going to get. When it comes to the decision of who said Humpy's going to win in the 15th inning, and I mean this so sincerely, Humpy decided. That was Humpy's time. When the lights shined the brightest, it was Humpy's decision. He did it. He felt the moment. He ran through, and I mean, if you guys were all at that game, you heard the roar. I mean, it was a pop. We talk about, that's how we measure, crowd. There's cheers, but like when you say a pop, that was so significant. And one of my favorite stories from it too is across the street at Victory Hall, where fans that didn't have tickets to the game but were watching the game over there, they're on a little bit of a delay. The broadcast obviously behind the live action. So they're in commercial break and they hear fireworks go on across the street. We hit fireworks when Humpy won. And they celebrate and pour into the street because they think the Mariners just walked it off.
Crazy.
And then they like get their MLB TV up and they're like, what's going on? Like they got runners on base, but it doesn't look like it. And then someone at Victory Hall made an announcement. They said, hey fans, the fireworks, we just heard Humpy won. And then everybody celebrated and ran back out into the street. So, and that began obviously the world tour that Humpy has been on ever since. I mean, the story, the rest was history with Jorge and his heroics in the bottom of the 15th. But Humpy went on a media tour and was the feature story on Yahoo Sports. The Cespedes Barbecue guys did a story, and Sports Illustrated did a story, and The Athletic did a story. They got picked up on New York Times and, obviously MLB.com. And he was on the cover of the Seattle Times. Bruce Harrell, the mayor, named October 16th Humpy Day in the city of Seattle. And, he's been at UW games, Kraken games. He did the tree lighting in Seattle this year. I mean, it's been crazy. So Humpy, everybody's hero.
Yeah. I'm curious, what if the Mariners ended up losing that game? Do you think that would have literally ruined the Salmon run?
Wow. I think there's a chance. I mean, you definitely hear fans talk about, Humpy is the reason that we won that game in the 15th inning.
Yeah.
I don't know if I believe that's necessarily true. I think that, JP, who worked the walk, and Randy, who got hit by a pitch, and ultimately Jorge Polanco did that. But what I think that allowed was for the crowd to be completely re-engaged. So, in this, the spectrum of who won the Mariners the game, obviously the players to the fans, and, Humpy had a hand in that. And as, base hits and players were getting on base, we were cutting back out to Humpy in the pen, who was jumping around with the fans and getting torn to shreds. Fans were just grabbing onto Humpy, taking everything from him they could. I don't know if it would have ruined the Salmon run, but I think there could have been conversation of, there's maybe a little bit of the Humpy curse, but thankfully, instead of the Humpy curse, it's hopefully forever remembered as the Humpy game.
Yeah. Let me tell you, as someone who was at that game, you're right when you say that it was, because I was there as a fan, and it was very much, your highs were high, but then all of a sudden, you'll line into a double play or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the 12th inning's over, and you're like, oh, great, here, and we got to go through the 13th now, and it was a long day. But to have Humpy come in there and win that race, the energy, like you mentioned, was back up in that ballpark, and that played a role. And I truly believe that crowd energy and home field advantage plays a role in baseball, and I think the guys felt that. I hope, anyway. I'd like to think the guys felt that from Humpy. They were all there for it.
Yeah, and in just a couple postseasons, we've felt what that postseason baseball is like, and the tension, and you're just breaking your fingers off the whole time. Again, of the first 4 postseason games that I ever worked, 3 of them went extra innings. And it was 18, game 1 went 11. Luckily, game 2 against the Tigers, we won it just in 9. And then the 15-inning game, and we felt it. And I think that Humpy win broke the tension a little bit and allowed fans to loosen up, wake up, and really bring it for that 15th inning, which they did. And, that definitely made a difference on the Tigers pitcher in that 15th inning.
Yeah, and I wanted to about Humpy winning as well. And there was a clip that was on Twitter that was posted around. I don't remember who the second player was, but it was a clip of Brian Wu from the dugout, watching the Salmon run happen and watching Humpy win. And the players were celebrating him winning and could tell it was such a big deal. So, I mean, do you have any insight to how much the players were into the Salmon run? And I mean, because they clearly understood, the assignment, basically, how big of a deal that was.
I mean, our players are definitely aware of what we do during inning breaks. And, we get feedback from them sometimes. Hey, I really like this. Hey, you should not maybe do that again, type of thing too. Yeah, I mean, I know that the guys are invested in the Salmon run. I mean, in the postseason, we had to change our route. I don't know if you noticed. Normally, they always come out of that right center field tunnel. For the postseason, they were going out and exiting out the Mariners bullpen. That was because during that Dodgers series and then the postseason, we had extended camera wells for more media. So it blocked off that normal exit point over by the first base dugout. But normally the Salmon run finishes right in front of the Mariners dugout. And, JP always gives the guys knuckles if he's coming out of the dugout. And, two, you maybe saw this from a couple years ago, but wives of Mariners players, wives and girlfriends, have run in the Salmon run as well. I mean, everybody is invested. They love the characters, and I think that was for the players too a little bit tension breaking, and maybe kind of realized that miracles can happen tonight. But nobody is more, I will say, nobody's more in tune with our game entertainment than the guys in the bullpen. Because, they sit there for multiple innings a game for their chance, and they watch our games. And, I'll walk by the clubhouse, and whoever it is, Matt Brash or Mooney will grab me and be like, hey, that was really funny, or something like that. So it's nice that our players are tuned in. And I think that's, just like our fans, it's kind of the beauty of baseball a little bit is, you're in the action, and then there's these regular appointment viewing sessions that we have. Everybody stops to watch the cap shuffle in the third inning. Now the salmon run in the fourth inning, hydros in the sixth. And, we have a little bit of that regularly scheduled program so people can anticipate it and get locked in. Our guys love the hydro challenge too. Julio is always rooting for the boats. You've probably seen the Mariners post that. The interesting one, and I have to put this to the test during spring training, but I was told that George Kirby can tell which boat is going to win in the first 3 seconds of the race. He has some sort of calculus that once the race starts, and he can recognize the sun level, because each of our races are a little bit different, and what boat gets out to the start, because those aren't live, just so you guys know. Those are pre-baked.
Sure.
But he's got some sort of algorithm that lets him know red boat's winning today, and he just knows it instantly. So I'm going to put that to the test with him at some point.
Let me ask this question about the hydro race then.
Yeah.
When we're obviously, that's pre-recorded, so what boat's going to win, at least you guys do.
Yeah,
but
they're videos.
Right. But do you guys intentionally, because this is how I've thought about it, do you guys intentionally have the color, maybe let's say you're playing the Athletics, right? The yellow and the green boat aren't winning. It's going to be the red boat because the yellow and green is the Athletics colors, or is that all in my head?
I'm not really at liberty to give that information. I would say
the game.
I would say your instinct is fairly good, and you could use that to your advantage as you're, bragging, betting for bragging rights with your friends in your row.
Got you.
Yeah, it was weird when the Athletics were in town for a 4-game series. Red won all 4 games.
I don't know how that happened.
I want to get into hot dogs from heaven soon, but do you guys have any other questions regarding the salmon run or the hydro race, I guess, at this point?
I think the only thing I would have wanted to ask is you talked about storyboarding certain different iterations of it, and you mentioned Seattle buildings or whatever, and there was a quiz, Jake, that you did, a Kahoot that you did a while back about the old mascot for the Mariners when they were in the Kingdom called Spacey the Needle.
Yeah.
And I wondered if that was ever potentially could Spacey the Needle have made a historic comeback in it had the hump, had the salmon run not come to fruition, would Spacey the Needle have been absolutely penciled in as one of the racers?
Yeah, Spacey the Needle was definitely on the list.
Yeah, crazy.
So was Lenny the Latte. If you guys remember Lenny the Latte from there was a Mariners commercial that featured him, but that what you just referenced, the Spacey the Needle, comes from a legendary moment. I'm a little bit of a Mariners marketing and promo junkie even before working here. And there's this brilliant, back in the late 70s and early 80s, trying to get people to come to the Kingdom and see the Mariners, and trying to create some organic buzz that eventually gets picked up by the Seattle Times or whatever it was. So Randy Adamak, who's a legend, our press box is named after him. He worked for longest tenured Mariners employee ever, went from comms to SVP of marketing, and he's just only recently retired in the last couple of years, and he oversees our archives. But he and his team put together the Seattle mascot contest in 1979. And it was an ad in the paper. There's a great article about it online, which I can share with you guys too. But we put an ad in the paper and promoted that they were looking for a mascot for the Seattle Mariners. Anybody could show up as a mascot and do it. And there are some great stories and some totally crazy people that showed up, including Spacey the Needle, who won it and ended up being the mascot for the Mariners for a handful of games. I think a dozen games or something like that. My favorite was a gentleman named The Baby, who just showed up in a diaper. And so they introduced, this is crazy. They introduced him from center field, and they walked in as they read about him. The PA announcer went on next up, please welcome The Baby. The Baby is whatever, introduced him. But this guy committed to the bit, and he crawled on his hands and knees
Oh
from the AstroTurf from center field to the infield. And I remember Randy telling me, like, by the time he got here, like his hands and knees were all bloody from walking on the AstroTurf. You know, commit to the bit. I think the baby maybe got second or third place in that. Again, you should check it out. It's a legendary Mariners marketing promo.
Yeah, I have to check that out now for sure. Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought up Spacey the Needle. He cannot, that the spirit of Spacey the Needle can never die on especially the Race at Trident channel or the Mariner Mojo channel at this point. So yeah, he'll always have a place in our hearts. But so the next thing we have to talk about is hot dogs from heaven. Like this has become also, along with the salmon run, like a really big viral kind of thing that the Mariners do. If you don't know what it is, which I'm sure you do, it's, I believe, the 7th or 8th inning is when it's just hot dogs attached to parachutes are thrown off the 300 level, and they just gradually go down to the 100 level. And yeah, it's a really fun moment. And when the national broadcasts come in, like Apple TV or really whoever, like they are super into it too. They have the commentators throw in their own hot dogs out and all that. It became kind of a phenomenon, if you will.
Yeah.
So can you talk a bit about like the history of that, like how that all came together, whose idea was that, and all that?
Yeah. Speaking of hot dogs from heaven, I mean, it is the perfect microcosm for how collaborative the Mariners organization is. I mean, it's such an incredible group effort to bring that together because there's so many logistics that go into it. I mean, it's a very complex thing to pull off. So Malcolm Rogel, who's our vice president of fan experience, along with myself and Nick Seibouts, and then our partnerships team, Andrew Scott and YY, they got together with the partner Hemplers, and we created this idea. What if we threw hot dogs off of the upper level on parachutes? You know, you see teams all over, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, whatever, they've got the cannons. They shoot hot dogs or t-shirts into the crowd. We are, with the Mariners, just from a legal and liability standpoint, we don't like to shoot compressed items into the crowd. There's a legendary story, terrible, notorious story is probably a better word, of a fan, I think in Kansas City, that lost their eye from a ice cream sandwich gun. So
certain things just shouldn't be put into like that's an ice cream sandwich.
Hey, listen, game entertainment is a dangerous game. Okay?
Yeah, we're finding out.
So, you know, we've always just steered away from that, and we said, how do we deliver things to fans in a more creative and careful way? And the name to me, like, came first. It was Hot Dogs from Heaven, and then Malcolm on our team helped us so much in prototyping the parachutes and figuring out, you know, the size of parachute, the, you know, strap of parachute based off the weight of a hot dog, and what happens if we put ketchup and mustard in it. Do we need to make the parachute bigger? I mean, you would have thought we were crazy if you saw us in November of 2023 throwing hot dogs off the upper level to a completely empty ballpark, and then running all the way down the stairs and picking them up. And like, all right, what if we're going to need to make it bigger? The strap needs to be bigger. I mean, we probably had a dozen different rehearsals during that off season, testing different parachutes. And then eventually we got our correct parachute prototype, and it's been a blast ever since. I mean, since the first time we did it in April, well, we did it on opening day of 2024 was the first time we did it. And then we had to workshop a couple things. We put it away for a little bit, and we brought it back it was our Salute to Armed Forces night in April of 24. So maybe 3 weeks later, and it went viral. Second time we ever did it, it was viral, and totally from organic fan captured content. Them on their phones, grab the video, put it on TikTok, put it on Twitter. And the next thing you know, like every major sports publication is resharing it, putting it up, and then we're like, okay, we've got a hit on our hands. So how do we continue to make this bigger and better? And we've tried other iterations of it. When the Blue Jays were in town in 2024, we did Canadian bacon from the clouds, and they were just hunks of ham, which were, in hindsight, way too heavy for the parachutes. They were falling drastically too fast. We've done Dogs After Dark during fireworks and drone shows, and we've put little lights inside of them. Chris Stapleton personally asked for Hot Dogs from Heaven to be thrown at his show at T-Mobile Park during his song Parachute, of course. And then this last year during the postseason, we did what we called Glizzies for Glory, which was Hot Dogs from Heaven X, on Max. And we did it in kind of rally situations. In fact, we did Glizzies for Glory right before Gino hit that grand slam.
Wow.
So it was effective, at least that time that we did it. So we would continue to evolve it. And, we after we did it in 24, we were pretty certain that just about every team in the world was going to do it the next year. And we've seen a few people try to do it, but, we feel fortunate that we still feel like we're out in front of it, and we'll continue to evolve it and make it a Mariners tradition. I think hopefully in, 20, 30 years, by the time I'm long gone and there's much smarter marketing and game entertainment people there, I hope that they still are tossing hot dogs to Belinda Carlisle.
So I'm curious, how do you guys get the ones that get caught on the camera wires? How do you get those down?
I would say that 95% of the ones that get stuck on the camera wire fall themselves. Gravity just takes effect, and eventually they fall down. And we'll throw them usually in the end of the 6th or the end of the 7th inning. We kind of moved them earlier towards the end of the season just because we had high leverage relievers coming in, and we didn't want to step on Matt Brash or Bizzardo's entrance with Belinda Carlisle. So it's continued to move a little bit earlier, but they'll land, the inning break will end, and game action will resume. And then all of a sudden you'll hear a huge crowd pop for some reason down the third base line. And you look and you're like, okay, well, one of the parachutes just fell. So eventually they fall. If they do get stuck out there, members from our engineering or maintenance team have got a long rod that they use to get them down. Or sometimes even like at times there will be, a fan that's maybe like, hey, can you guys do something? This, hanging parachute is right in my line of sight of home plate. And you'll see an usher go out there with like a broom or something like that every once in a while and try to knock them down. The coolest thing is when they get stuck specifically on the fly cam cable. Mm-hmm. That fly cam is the one that moves, up and down the third base line, and it will just like ram up into it until it knocks off. That's a really cool moment for the fans underneath, but also a very cool shot for the broadcast to see it nudging that parachute until it falls.
Yeah, awesome. You mentioned, you guys do such a great job. A lot of your stuff honestly does go viral, but Jake specifically took a video at one of the games he was at of one of the like mid innings, like the screen said application has crashed or whatever.
Yeah.
And that one went really viral I was getting that one sent to me by people who don't even care about baseball. Like it's like it became so much of like more of like a hierarchical diffusion sort of thing than just baseball fans.
I got 1.5 million views on TikTok from that one video.
Gosh.
And
that's awesome.
I just want to say, like, do you understand how many people thought that was a real crash? And like, even after watching the whole video, thought that was real. And I got legitimate comments saying, wow, the video board operator saved the day. Good job.
Yeah.
Like,
I can't believe the Mariners are still using Windows Vista.
Exactly.
Yeah. We've been fortunate, in addition to Hot Dogs from Heaven and, the Humpy victory, of creating viral moments. And a really good way to do that is the misdirection. And that's exactly what happens with that desktop rally one, is it gets people's attention. They think something's gone wrong, and then you hit them with, the punch at the end, and it turns into something that ignites the crowd. And that is a really good example of another one that we've had in the last few years that have gone super viral. We took the sweet Victory, the Bubble Bowl performance from that one SpongeBob episode. Mm-hmm. We took that and we cut in highlights from players, and we only ran it once, and it went crazy viral. Again, it got picked up by everybody. Bleacher Report and Sports Center shared it, and then we put it away. We never ran it again. It was kind of that's a fun thing to do too, is you run something once, it works really well, and then you retire it. This last year, another one of the rally videos that we did was, we call it More Mayhem, but we ran it during the postseason a few times, and it's like the purge warning one, where it's like, from this point forward for the rest of the night, all sound limits have been lifted, go crazy. And that is maybe our most effective video that we've had, in addition to the desktop rally, when it comes to really igniting the crowd. And it's that little bit of misdirection at the beginning of people saying, what's going on? Is this a real thing? And then they find out it's a parody, and it works really well. So those are my favorite things to put together, what we call rally clips, or how to energize our crowd.
Awesome. Do you guys have any other questions before I get into my next one?
No, go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, go for it.
So I have I wrote down a couple notes for your interview, and the last one I put was, this dude does everything. And because I was doing research about like what you do during the day, and it just seems like you have your hands on everything when it comes to just a normal game day. So I was curious, can you go through like a daily agenda from like literally when you would go to the ballpark, let's say for an evening game, to when you leave? Like, what does your day look like?
Well, every day is a little bit different. I mean, we pride ourselves on 81 home games a year. How do we throw 81 unique parties for our fans? So no 2-day games are necessarily the same, but it depends really on how far ahead we can get on things. And, we get late requests and, partnership stuff, and, theme nights may mean that we need to get there earlier for certain reasons. But, I'm usually at the ballpark at 9 or 10 o'clock a.m. on a game day, putting together the script for that game. By that time we should have most everything written. Myself and a guy named Nick Seibout's on our team, we put it together. And that's, again, the 30 to 40 minute pregame show. What are all the elements that make that up? Our team coordinating with the anthem singer, the ceremonial first pitch guest, if there's, group or partner first pitches that come out and throw pitches, contests that we do, and just kind of figuring out the flow of that, not just based off of like what's going to be the strongest elements and trying to put those closer to first pitch, but also like, all right, we're doing a contest in center field at this time. Do we think that the pitchers are still doing long toss out there? When that ends, there's these few things in between. Does that give us enough time to get our staff to this element? And trying to be really, strategic about how we schedule things. And then that's the same case for those inning breaks, and, trying to throw in unique elements and, hit our sponsor requirements and all those things too. So it takes some time putting that together. And we do that. We put a lot of time and thought into, how we structure our shows to make the best experience possible for our fans. So, writing the scripts, eventually we will, before the beginning of each series, we hold an internal meeting with all stakeholders from various departments. And I run through all the timings that we're going to do for these next 3 games. Let's say it's a Friday through Sunday. We're playing the Angels. Here's Friday's timing, Saturday's timing, Sunday's timings. Make sure everybody knows, where they're supposed to be. If they have questions, does that timing work for them and their guests that maybe they're bringing to the ballpark that's going to, again, throw a pitch or be part of a contest or play ball. Mm-hmm. And then, we put together a schedule for the Mariner Moose every day. We're putting in music trivia and all those things. I mean, there's a lot of little things that make up one of our shows. In addition to, sitting in meetings throughout the day to talk about games that are further in the future. And then again, if it's, a Thursday or Friday and we have a game, we're also trying to chunk out things that we have to accomplish for the next day's game and the next day's game and the next day's game. And that's where the grind of baseball really comes in. I mean, 81 games is one thing. Sure, that's more games than any other professional sport, but it's also the consistency of the back to back to back to back, and doing that for 10 games and trying to set yourself up for success. So maybe I can get another half hour of sleep, or maybe I don't have to stay after the game to, finish something up for tomorrow. So eventually we get closer to game time. We hold a control room meeting. This is where our crew comes in. These are the people that actually operate the video board, and our PA announcer, Tom Hutler, and our DJ, and, our camera operators. And we walk them through, here's all the things that we have scheduled today. This is where they're going to be. This is, where you ultimately need to be, and step through all those things. It usually takes 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how big the game is or how many different elements we have going on. And then all that up until first pitch. And then for the majority of our games I produce. Also, Nick, who I mentioned, he does a handful of our games every year too. And then that's being on headset with the crew and with our stage managers down on field that are helping, send guests out to the field or moving people from one place to another for where they need to be. And, counting them down for each of those elements. Hey, here we go. We're going to roll this video in 3, 2, 1, video rolls. Then we're starting to talk about the next element. Okay, coming up next, we've got, this graphic that's going to come up. Tom, you're set on your read there. Great. Okay. Following that, we've got a contest out in center field. How are we looking with our contestants? And always trying to be, 2, 3 elements ahead. That's at least for pregame. And then in game, you're responding to game action. You're away from your, your script or your schedule that you've built. And now it's like, all right, we're going to do we're going to promote our upcoming games this inning break. We've got 4 games we're going to run through. Oh, wait, Julio just hit a 3-run home run. Scratch that. Let's party this break. DJ, give me a good song. Give me some energetic boards. Lights on, lights off. We started playing with fireworks in the middle of inning breaks this year too. So it's really the culmination of all of our different tools and resources that we can dip into, from music to video boards to special effects, fireworks, cryo. We added flames for bullpen entrances last year. Our stadium lights, our roof lights. We've got a lot of different levers we can pull, and kind of going through what is in my toolkit, when can I pull it, when, how do I elevate things throughout the game, save your best stuff for last, or save your impactful stuff for later in the game when it matters more. And there's kind of a delicate dance for that, but it's the greatest job in the world. And I love putting it together. And as for somebody that, grew up obviously a Mariners fan in Spokane and watching FSN Northwest in my Unieski Betancourt jersey and being able to be at T-Mobile Park for what has now been so many of the big moments in Mariners history, and being able to either capitalize on them or feel like maybe we did something that got the fans to, help lead to a moment. That's just like my dream job. And it makes me so proud to think about, how far our game entertainment has come and how far I've come in sports, and just trying to continue to take it higher.
Yeah. I mean, being there since 2018, you've kind of been through it a little bit. Obviously 2019, we start this rebuild or retool, or what's going on with the team. And of course, 2020, you have COVID hit. So like, it's kind of, can't really do anything there. 2021, you have like the pod seating, smaller crowds into, a 90 win Mariners are close to the playoffs, the Believe season, right? Yeah. What from all of your time here has been your favorite like moment? Because I'm assuming you were there for like Felix's last game and whatnot, and played a role in his final goodbye to the fans and whatnot. Is there anything in there that kind of sticks out to you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that stick out to me, and Felix is my all-time favorite Mariner. That's probably never going to change. So being there was obviously meaningful for that. I feel like where the couple moments that maybe I learned the most was, you referenced the 2019 season, and that was such a learning curve for me. It was my first year as our full-time producer, and this was pre, batter minimum or batters faced minimum. This is before pitch clock. I mean, a good game is like 3.5 hours. You're like, oh, tonight's game was only 3.5 hours. Nice. High five the person next to you. I mean, and again, like the pitching changes and learning like all the different things that go into scheduling a game and trying to be, thoughtful of, this. I mean, I don't remember right now, but I think we started 13-2 and then won like 68 games or something like that year. So, that was a huge learning curve year for me. And then I think my next big learning curve was the Believe sequence there at that end of the year, those games against the Angels, 161, 162, and just what they meant, and feeling like baseball was so back in Seattle at that point. And then that's where it really was like, okay, I've kind of learned a little bit of like the 101 or 201 of building a show and, scheduling and anticipating a pitching change or anticipating a pitch hitter, and how does that affect what we do in the control room. But then at that point, it was like, how do we ramp this place up, and how do we make a difference? And, that the Haniger single, at the end of that 161 is obviously, forever etched in who I'll be as a Mariners fan. And, I think kind of a forgotten moment, because ultimately we didn't make the postseason that year. But that to me was like where, when we say we are so back, that felt like that's when Mariners baseball was so back.
Yeah.
You referenced the 2020 year too. That was so strange. We were still putting on a show every night just for the teams that were there. Walk-up songs. We were running hydros. The things that people don't know, we were doing cap shuffle and hydros in the 7th inning stretch to nobody, just to make it feel normal.
Weird.
We have a DJ there. We have a PA announcer there that was announcing batters to the plate. We had the most unique thing is we had an iPad that was in the control room. Every MLB team got sent one of these by Major League Baseball, and that's how we did our crowd noise. So there was always the low rumble crowd noise, and then you could have a positive reaction, a super positive reaction, negative reactions. And, we were pushing that thing. I mean, we were trying to make a difference because there was a moment in that 2020 season too. This Kyle Lewis went on to win Rookie of the Year, and we were playing important games at the end of that year, trying to get into the postseason. So, I mean, that again was like great memory. And then, not to ramble on because I could literally talk about this all day.
Please do.
Dylan Moore's grand slam against the Astros on like a Monday night. There's like 20,000 people in the ballpark just going bananas. I mean, absolute bedlam. I mean, that was like the small but mighty crowd game to me. And just like, it didn't matter how many people that we had in that ballpark that night. I mean, it was absolutely bedlam. The Julio and Gino back-to-back home runs against the Braves later that year in 22 is another one that sticks out. I should have mentioned there's that, Luis Castillo's first start for the Mariners in 22 against the Yankees, the game that goes, I think, 13 innings. Luis Torrens has a walk-off single in it. Matt Brash has the behind-the-back play that turned to Cal's walk-off drought-ending home run, obviously, was like, one of the few moments that I have become emotional in the control room. I'm usually pretty, cool, like stone face, like moving on to the next element. But there's moments too where you just kind of break down. And that was one for me. JP the next year in 23 with that really weird lofted shot down the left field line that drops in and keeps the season alive. The All-Star game in 23 was another really cool opportunity, and being able to work that. I've gotten to do the All-Star game in LA in 22, Seattle in 23, and then I went to Arlington in 24, and we took hot dogs from heaven there. That was a really cool moment to be able to put, what we work on the national scale. And then this last year was second to none. And, that's for a lot of different reasons. The Naylor double that clinches the postseason spot, winning the AL West in just like the least dramatic fashion ever. And, again, that was like an absolute party. 45,000 people there were just partying all game long. And Cal hit 60. And then there's a lot of great things from the postseason. But, of course, the two that stick out were Polo's walk-off in the 15th of ALDS Game 5. And then the most emotional, more than the Cal walk-off home run, but the just like reduced to a puddle of tears as Gino is rounding the bases after that grand slam. I mean, that was just like, we're going to the World Series. We're winning the World Series.
Yeah.
I have, I've heard loud crowds in my life. Obviously ALDS Game 5 was loud. I was at the Seahawks game on Thursday, which was loud, when they got the 2-point conversion, but it was maybe the third loudest crowd I've heard this year behind ALDS Game 5. And then the Gino Grand Slam was the loudest I've ever heard. I think you guys probably know this. We have a decibel meter up on the control room that we take live shots of. During that, as I'm like wiping tears out of my eyes, I'm like, I got to know how loud this is. And I turn around and look at it, and it says 119. Damn. Which is like, for 45 or 47,000 people is so significant.
Wow.
So sorry, I went on for a while, but again,
No, you're good.
I could talk about Mariners baseball forever.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the emotional stuff because, you're a fan. You grew up a fan of the Mariners. So, I mean, it's not like you grew up in some other state and grew up with liking another team. And you just happened to be employed by this team. And, of course, there's still a little bit of emotional investment there. But being a fan your whole life, I mean, I have to imagine some of those moments, it's tough to just kind of stay stoic and professional, I guess. Yeah. So, yeah, I was going to ask, is there, even apart from just your emotions, I mean, was it like the Gino Grand Slam where you're looking around and everyone that you work with who's normally the same is just like losing their minds? Definitely. And, we're in the control room, which is different than the press box where Mariners employees work in there and people can't respond. They can't react. They can't clap. They can't cheer. Like one way or another, they've got to be completely neutral. In the control room, we're throwing off our headsets, we're high-fiving, we're hugging each other. We feel, again, what our fans feel, and we feel what our players feel just because we've been there for every single pitch this season. And, we want to, especially, the ALCS Game 5 is
so unique, not just because of what it meant, and it's the furthest the Mariners have ever gone, winning a third game in the ALCS, and you're one game away from making the World Series, in Toronto. But, those two games before, Game 3 and Game 4, really took an emotional toll on all of us too. And, they were long games. They drug a little bit. It felt like, you'd start to get something going, and for some reason the flame would go out. And then that was just like this release valve of emotion. And it felt like everything that we experienced in 3 and 4, and for a lot of 5 too, just completely vanished with one swing. And it was, I will never forget what that felt like. And, I can only imagine how good it's going to feel in 26 when the swings are bigger and the stakes are higher.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You guys have any other questions?
There was one that was put in our chat from Steamboat Seattle is their username, but just brought up the doubleheader against the Red Sox when the World Cup will be going on, just kind of like game planning around that. Like we found out, like, I don't know how far in advance you guys found out compared to like public information about the schedule, but have you guys when did you guys start game planning about like the World Cup being involved and like how that would affect like the operations for the Mariners around that time?
Yeah, great question. We knew that we were going to have a doubleheader on that Saturday with the game on Friday for a couple months now as we start to put together or get our schedule. We put out our schedule. Our schedule release was back in August. So, we've had that information for a little while, and we're putting together a lot of plans right now. There's the idea that when there's not games, we're not working with the Mariners. We just go into hibernation. But next year is going to be so exciting for so many reasons. And, fans should make sure that they get to Fan Fest, the return of that coming up. There's limited tickets available on Saturday, but then there's going to be more availability on Sunday. It's your chance to see Cal and Julio and Josh Naylor and George Kirby and all the guys that'll be out there. And then obviously our 50 seasons celebration is going to be unlike any other. We'll celebrate each of the decades during weekends throughout the year. So you'll get to touch the 70s, 80s, 90s, and so on. And then that culmination being the weekend in August, on August 8th, when we unveil the top 50 Mariners of all time, and a ceremony that'll be unbelievable. Again, we're starting to put it together now, and we have the goal of making it the greatest pregame ceremony in the history of the Seattle Mariners. So, I hope that all of you guys get to come and see that and see who makes the top 50, which, again, you guys probably know this, and I'm sure you've all done this already, but you have the chance to vote for it. So that's at mariners.com/50. Did you guys put in your votes?
Colton, who did you take off to put in your favorite player?
I don't remember who I took off to put in Daniel Vogelback, but
Put Bogey in.
Love Bogey.
He was an all-star.
That's right. The home run over the Hit It Here Cafe, hey.
Yeah, I haven't done mine yet, but because we were kind of debating like whether we would do that as a segment of the stream, and then thankfully we ended up filling out the whole stream with content, so we didn't have to put it in there, but we were considering it. So I haven't done it yet because I was holding out just in case. At some point I definitely will be doing that for sure. So
and it's your chance to put together your own 50. You could try to do it analytically and say like, hey, here's the top 50 Mariners of all time. But you could also have like the emotional choices, like, who, is James Jones going to make it on your list for stealing like 28 bags in like 40 games or whatever he did? Again, I mentioned, the Unieski Betancourt jersey, but that 2007 Mariners team was so influential to me and continuing to be a Mariners fan throughout my lifetime. So I made sure there was a bunch of 07 guys on mine as I submitted it. So lots of cool stuff this upcoming year, including, Joe, as you mentioned, the doubleheader against the Red Sox in June should be a really fun event. And, we'll try to capture not just our own fans, but try to celebrate fans that are in town for the World Cup as they come over, and make sure that we're celebrating each of their countries as well.
Yeah.
So Tyler, I have one last question. I forgot that, and just until now, the Mariners won an Emmy recently. What was the Emmy for, and what was that like?
Yeah, we won an Emmy in the 2023. We've won several throughout the history of our organization, but the most recent one was 23. We won it for our City Connect rollout. So the video and the assets around, the 23 City Connect uniforms, which we still wear. So that was really cool. Such a unique project to get to work on and be able to celebrate the history of baseball in our region, from the Steelheads to the Pilots to the Rainiers, and all of the different pieces that go together that make that uniform not just cool, but also, really thoughtful. And being able to do some of that storytelling and share it with our players down at spring training before anybody else had seen it. And then eventually it rolls out in May. So that was a cool project to get to work on. We pride ourselves on an organization on being, among the best in not just baseball, but all of sports when it comes to content. I think our fans realize that a little bit, and see, the history of our commercials and, the different unique things that we do, and like the way that we celebrated Cal around, his all-star voting. And, this past year we actually won, it's called the Idea Awards, or the Golden Matrix Awards. They are the Emmys or Oscars for sports entertainment. And the Mariners won best overall in baseball for that. And beyond that, we won best overall in all of sports. So we went up against all those teams on our level, and we were able to win that award, which was a very cool, fulfilling feeling. And we had a couple of our features got nominated for Feature of the Year too. The Cal Raleigh Big Dumper Breakups, as he's dumping people on Mariners Vision. And then
are those real?
Well,
Jake, we
Jake,
don't want to know.
you guys have enough secrets today.
Yeah, sorry.
I will say the Cal is super into it. He loves it. He's had a bunch of fun doing it the last couple of years. They're fun, and the email address is real, and we get real requests from people asking for us to dump their significant other or their real estate agent, or whatever it is, their dentist. Like, hey, my dentist wronged me on this. You got to help me. Like, with a Cal Raleigh message. I'm not paying that.
That's awesome.
Can you? I know this isn't your purview, but you mentioned the Steelheads. Please tell me, is the Steelhead jerseys have to come back? Because I lost my mind when they went away due to like the New Jersey partnerships and stuff. Do you know anything about that at all, or totally not?
I don't know anything about it, but they're just such a great uniform, and obviously the history of the 46 Steelheads, the barnstorming team that was here and played at Sixth Stadium, and we'll always find opportunities to celebrate that moment in Seattle history. But no, I don't know anything about that.
Dang it. Okay, that's okay. I had to ask. So, any last questions, guys?
I think the only, you mentioned the Mariners commercials, and Colton is a huge Mariners commercial guy. Not to say that I'm not, but he more so than I. But do you have, if you had to pick, we started this conversation with you as like a Mount Rushmore conversation about Christmas movies.
Oh yeah.
If you had to pick, say, like a Mount Rushmore of Mariners commercials, I know it's probably hard to pick from, since your bevy of knowledge about everything Mariners marketing related is it's unparalleled. But if you had to pick a Mount Rushmore, I know it's kind of on the spot, but
yes, I could probably get through this. My favorite one is the two first names, Cliff Lee and Felix Hernandez one. I just think it's beautifully written and so simple. I love the Brendan Ryan doing the De Niro impression, or doing the Connery impression. You seen that one?
I see, and this is where I'm a little out of my I know Colton will say yes to everyone. These are now a laundry list of things that I now have to go look up just to make sure I have the context.
So it's like George Sherrill and a bunch of guys standing around in a circle in the clubhouse, and Brendan Ryan is doing a Robert De Niro impression, and the guys are trying to guess who he's impersonating. And it's a really good impression. You know it instantly when you saw it. And the guys are like, I don't know, I'm not sure. And then Ichiro enters the room and goes and says, shaken, not stirred. He doesn't do an impression. He just says it like himself. And everybody's like, Sean Connery.
Got it.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Ichiro and Junior putting glue on the chair of Ichiro is another one that's way up there for me. And then the GOAT is maybe Larry Bernandez.
Yeah.
Larry Bernandez. That's multiple iterations too. Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Super good. And Eric Wedge steals the show on that one for me. His performance is so good. Larry Bernandez. He kills it. And we're, we gotten to revive those because they went away for a few years. We've gotten to do them the last couple of years in spring training, and working on some new fun concepts for this year too, for what we call our digital shorts now.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
Cool.
Looking forward to it. Well, Tyler, I appreciate you so much for taking the time to come on and talk
Absolutely.
about your job. I mean, it is incredibly intriguing to listen to like what you do, and also I feel like you're one of the more important people with the Mariners as far as like, I mean, everyone knows when you go to a game at T-Mobile Park, I mean, no one ever says it was boring. Everyone says it was a great time. We appreciate a lot of what you do for the Mariners because it is really important. So thank you for coming on and talking all about it. We appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. And thanks for having me. We've got such an incredibly talented team that all has such an impact on what we do across all of our channels, in park, social, advertising, whatever. And happy just to talk about a little bit of it and shine a spotlight on it. So thank you guys very much. Good luck with the rest of your stream and happy holidays.
Appreciate
Thank you. You too. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you're watching this still in December of 2025, you still can donate to our charity fundraising event for the Hunger Intervention Program. The donation link will be down below in the description. If it's outside of December, it will be over by then, but I still appreciate you watching. You can subscribe to the channel. It's free. It helps me out a lot. You can like the video as well and comment down below. That's going to be it for me in this one, and I will see you in the next.